Alright, in this tutorial we're finally getting down to this spry validation of the text field. I know in the past few examples we have been working with the text field, but there are a lot of options that we did not go over in the past two tutorials on form validation. So I'm just going to throw in a text field real quick. I'll call it example. Then I'm going to wrap a spry validation text field around that. I'm going to go ahead and save this, make sure that everything is working right. There we go. I'm going to get out of this. Okay, so down here in our properties we have a lot of things to choose from. We have a lot of different options, starting with type and format, pattern, and min and max value, and required, and validate on blur and on change. And so we're going to start by looking at what types of text we can validate. And this is the spry text field validation contains the largest amount of options because there are so many different things that can be entered in a text field. And as you can probably guess, an integer is basically a number that does not have decimal points. So you can type any number without decimal points inside of an integer field, but if you do type something with a decimal point, it's going to return as an invalid format. The next, which we have already covered, is email address, and I don't think I really need to go over that one because we have definitely checked that one out twice. So let's move on to date. Okay, now after we click date, you notice that this format option was highlighted down here, and when you click on that, you can see that there are some options here, and you see these MMs, DDs, and YYs. And if you don't already know this, the MM stands for month, the DD stands for day, and the YY stands for year with 2 letters. The one below it, MM and DD, still stand for month and day, and they do not have to actually be like 09 or 01. You could actually just put in 1 for the date as far as the month goes, and you could also put in 1 for the day instead of 01. So if you put in 01, it'll still be valid, but if you put in 1 for MM and DD, it'll also still be valid. And the 4Ys means that it requires you to put in the full year. So, and this is the same thing, it's just reverse. You can see the different formats here, and you can see here we've changed from / to a hyphen, and so on and so on, and here we changed to a period. So that is the date format, and all those are good options to use. I usually just use the default option. The next thing that we have is the time, and with time it's pretty much the same thing as before. We see HH stands for hour, and MM stands for minutes. HH indicates the hour specified using the 24-hour time, like 13 for 1 p.m. for example. HH is like the little h is the hour, and little m is minutes, and little s is seconds. Little t is before noon and afternoon notation, that is AM or PM. So T indicates time of day using a single letter, A or P. So okay, and the next one will be credit card, and basically that's self-explanatory. It validates that it is. It doesn't actually validate that the card is valid, but it validates that the card is in the correct format. The next one we have is zip code, and you have some options here. You have the US 5-digit zip code, and then you have the US 9-digit zip code with a 5-digit zip code in the front, and then hyphen with a 4. And you also have the English, the UK pattern, and the Canada, and then you can also create a custom pattern, which I will go through in the next tutorial. The next one we have is a phone number. You use the format menu to choose US or Canada phone number format, or select custom patterns, which you then define in a pattern field. So I will describe what custom patterns are, just like I said in the next tutorial. The next one we have is social security number, and that is pretty much self-explanatory. This option requires 3 numbers, a hyphen, 2 numbers, a hyphen, and 3 more numbers. So basically just like your standard social security number. With social security numbers, though, you might want to avoid requesting those for reasons of privacy and fear of identity theft. Many people, they don't want to give out their social security number, and by law they don't have to share those. So just a little side note. Alright, the next one is currency. Here you can see that you can format it like that or like that. You probably want to continue to select that. One thing to note here is that a dollar sign is invalid, or a euro sign is invalid inside of the text field. So if somebody is going to put, dollar sign 1000, that's going to be invalid. But if they just put 1000, then that's going to be invalid, or that's going to be valid. The next one is real number, or scientific notation. Basically, this is a number that allows decimal points and scientific notation. So if you have a number where you want to use decimal points instead of using an integer, then this is the number you would use. The next one is IP address. You see it's IPv4 only, or IPv6 only, and then the newly not yet fully implemented IPv and IPv4 format. And lastly, before I end this tutorial, is a URL. Make sure and note that in this validation here with the URL, it has to have a http:// for it to be valid. So hopefully those work out. If they don't, then there's something that's called a custom pattern, or a custom validation field, and if you're not happy with any of these, then you can just make your own. And if you continue watching, I'll let you know how to do that. One other thing, though, that I want to say about this is these right here, on blur and on change. On blur means when you click outside of the text field, and on change means every time a letter changes. So if you click on change, then it's going to validate every time you talk. I mean, not talk, but every time you type. So if you're typing a letter, then it's going to validate as soon as you type a letter. But if you use blur and uncheck change, then you can type in and keep typing in, and once you're done and click outside of the text box, then it's going to validate. So that is it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we are going to be going over custom validation of a text field, and we are also going to look at a few other things that have to do with the SPRY validation of a text field. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.